Welcome to episode 141. Jim's a little kooky today of Mastering Local Marketing. Today we are talking about the simple email system that lifts business growth and increases sales. I did not tell Jim what we're talking about today, so let's see how flustered we can get him on his own processes. Most customers do not disappear because they are not interested. They get busy, distracted, unsure, or stuck comparing options. That is where a simple email drip campaign can keep the conversation alive. In this episode, we break down a 4 email follow-up sequence small businesses can use to reconnect with warm leads, answer common questions, build trust, and bring interested customers back to the next step. Sometimes the sale is not lost. It just needs one more helpful follow-up. Jim, how are you today?
I'm doing good, man. You always go right to the weakness in my organization and in my systems, and this is probably in the top 3 of what I don't do well. So I'm kind of interested to see exactly how bad you're going to make me look in front of all these people. All you folks in Australia, one of you has this problem. But anyways, go ahead.
So here's my question. You get a lead for, let's call it Heartland Sports Network, right? And your guys get a lead. What's the next step on that?
The next step is almost, if it comes in on a phone call or if it comes in on an email or a text, or even once in a while they come in on social media, I contact them directly or Sam contacts them directly and we just talk to them. Now, honestly, that comes from you. Is like, I used to think we had to have like pricing sheets and this long pitch deck. And you're like, dude, it's local media, local area. Just call the people and see what they want. And that's actually worked out pretty well on leads that come to us.
Okay. So somebody comes to you, says, hey, we're interested. And this resonates to all of our listeners as well. Somebody walks into your store, somebody makes a phone call to your plumbing service, whatever it may be, right? They come in, we have a conversation with them. What happens after that, right? So you're going to call those advertisers, potential advertisers back, and you have the conversation. What percentage of them, or you don't have to say exact percentage, but like a good majority of them probably don't sign up right there, right?
Oh, very few do that. I mean, if they've come to me and I go out and see them, they might agree to it. There's usually a certain type of organization that just kind of wants it off their plate. Mm-hmm. But most have to, like right today, I'm dealing with a marketing head inside maybe a 20-person organization. And I have gone back and forth with her probably 5 times. One more question. What about this? And quite frankly, they got a CYA. They got to cover their butts and make sure that they've zipped up all of the possible risks. So I understand it, but man, does it get laborious.
Okay. So you have that first conversation. Somebody walks into your store, somebody makes a phone call to you for the first time, and you have the conversation and they say, okay, we're going to go talk to somebody. We need to get more intel. We need to think about it. You know, all the typical things that normal people say, right? Like, I need to talk to my business partner, or I need to talk to my marketing team, whatever it may be. Where does it go from there?
All right. This would be where it's kind of hard to admit this on a podcast that's growing in popularity. I wait until they call me back or email me back because, like most of the small to medium business owners here, we're busy as all get out, and getting back to people who have already called. I mean, it's kind of a joke. Sometimes I'll be sitting in a meeting and I'll pull like 2 business cards out of my wallet and I'll be like, oh, wow, I forgot about this guy. Or I'll go out to the store and the person will be like, dude, you were going to send me that proposal. We talked. What happened? I am the worst example to be doing this follow-up. I'm good on the beginning. And if they buy right then, here's your contract's out and you're done. But if it goes back past 2 meetings or even 1 sometimes, I probably lose the sale.
Okay.
That's being candid. And
So,
it makes you sick, I know, but it is what it is.
okay. So today we're going to change that, right? We're going to give you 4 emails that you can actually send back to keep the conversation alive. So again, when you have these conversations with people, odds are you're probably getting an email. I know you at this point. You're probably getting a phone and an email so that you can communicate with them, right? Because you have a CRM and you're putting it into there. Other people may not have a CRM, but keep in mind, if somebody wants to think about something, wants to, I need to talk with somebody, get the email, because the email is the easiest, most non-intrusive way of coming back to them, right? So if you're hoarding them with a phone call every 3 seconds, they're going to turn you off. But if you could set this nice email drip campaign, and what we mean by a drip campaign is a series of emails that will go out over days. And that's what we're talking about today. So the first one that you would want to do is the same exact day that you talk to them. You want to send an immediate follow-up after the meeting, right? So again, confirm that they're interested. And I've written a few of these. I want to give you some examples. So the subject line would simply just say, "Great talking with you today." The email would say something like this: "Thanks for stopping in today. I know you were looking at a few options, so I wanted to send a quick note in case any questions come up. Here's the easiest next step. Reply to this email, call us, or stop back in when you're ready. We are happy to help you compare options and figure out what makes the most sense. No pressure. Just wanted to make sure you had an easy way to keep the conversation going." You're not asking for the sale. You're simply just opening up a line of communication. So again, some of the most recent podcasts that we've talked about are about trust, right? And you're building that trust, that rapport between you and the client. So it's no longer just they're waiting for a phone call from you. It's you're literally opening up a line of communication that they can call you or email you at any given moment, or just stop in if they have more questions, and you're there to actually answer that. So, same day, doesn't have to be long. You notice that's 3 paragraphs with, I think, 2 sentences in each paragraph. Nothing drastic, but you see why that would be important, right? So we open up the lines of communication. We get them coming back. We get them realizing that we're still interested in helping solve their problem.
I want everybody that's listening to this to know that I took his email classes and I still am bad at them. It's still not doing it. But this cost a lot for me to go get my MBA and get exposed to Matt Hansen, and you're getting all of this for free. Please take notes like I'm doing. Go ahead.
Okay, so then the second one you should send 2 days later, and that's our helpful education. And the purpose of this is literally to answer questions and reduce the hesitation. So let me read you this next email. Subject line is a few things to consider before deciding. Email is when customers are deciding, the biggest questions usually come down to fit, timing, price, and what happens next. Here are a few things worth thinking about before you make a decision. What problem are you trying to solve? How soon do you need it? And what would make this feel like a right choice? We're happy to walk you through those questions so you don't feel like you're guessing. And you just put sincerely Matt Hansen, right? So again, we're there. Most people will come to us and they have the same questions that you're dealing with. We're here to answer those. We've heard them before. You're in a safe space. You can ask those to us at any given time. Again, not asking for the sale, literally opening up the dialogue, trying to get people to communicate with you, right? So instead of somebody calling you on one day and then they're waiting or they're thinking about it and there's no other lines of communication, we're already 2 days later and we have 2 lines of communication through email already sent out to them.
Point of practicality here. You write that email, right? And it's just text. Maybe it's put a little image in or something, your logo or something or whatever. Then you run it through AI. It sounds like AI, but it sounds better than you wrote it. What do you do?
It's up to you, right? So I think the biggest thing in these types of cases, and we've seen it recently with email, is that I'm from marketers like me. This is going to go against probably everything that most people are thinking right now, but the personal, simple text email with no images that looks like it came directly from you is going to work 10 times better than some mass-produced, image-enhanced email. There's this massive push right now to go back to personalization, to make it feel real. And I'm seeing it, and a lot of people are dealing with it right now and implementing it. So if this looks like it's coming from you, Jim, from your email address, and it's signed off by you, and people know how you talk, right? And people know how I talk, is putting it through AI, is that generating anything else other than kind of separating you from what you're trying to accomplish? I think personally, I've heard of people putting typos in emails on purpose just so it feels authentic, that they see like you're doing these types of things. So,
well, that's interesting that you say that, because I literally just wrote, hey, I think the woman's question was, what kind of time commitment will it? Well, I was trying to sell a podcast plus ads. That's what we sell a lot of times now. And you back it up with ads, but you got to sell them a lot of times on the podcast. The ads is pretty self-explanatory and stuff. Oh, how much time, is my CEO going to have time and this and that? And I wrote it, I ran it through AI, but I do a pretty heavy editing of it. And then I realized, I sent it because we're doing this podcast. I had to go. I go, maybe, just maybe, my first email, which wasn't as polished, might have been the better piece there. Even though I went back and I put I in it, and me and we'll, that kind of stuff. But some of the wording was too AI. And I remember when you had me come out and judge your final presentations last semester, and there was a couple that were a little bit lack of professionalism, but they knew the stuff and they answered. And I think one had a coffee stain on one of them that they handed to me, and I'm like, all right, is that good or bad? And then these people coming in with you could tell it's AI because it has that line across, and then they're like looking at customer acquisition costs of 75.739 cents.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, all right, don't ever send me those again. Give those to an F. I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
So just from a small business person's standpoint, I struggle with this, and I'm sure that many of the other small and medium-sized business owners struggle with it. You want to use AI. God, it sounds great, and you're all excited because it's less work for you and it's really professional. But then it doesn't sound like you with grease on the back of your hand from just fixing the machine over there. It sounds like AI, and that's a turnoff, man.
Yeah. And that's what we're trying to be, is authentic here, right? So that's what this is all about in this email sequence. All right, so let's turn to the third one, right? The third one is a trust builder, and that's 5 days later. And the purpose of that is just to add proof. So let me read you this one. Subject line is why customers choose us. Email says, one thing we hear from customers is that they want to feel confident before they buy. That makes sense. Here's what customers often tell us they appreciate. We take time to explain the options. We do not push people into something they do not need, and we help them make a decision that fits their situation. When you're ready, we would be happy to help you do the exact same. Nothing crazy, nothing, out of the ordinary, simple email. But now we are under a week. We've had a phone call with them, or they've stopped into our store. We sent an email that same day. 2 days later, we sent another email. And 5 days later, we sent another email. So we're 7 days into this, and we've contacted them 4 times. Do you think they've forgotten about us? Probably not.
No, but there is a context here in that I took your email classes, 2 of them, I believe, for an MBA. That was how this relationship came. He's more of the academic, and I'm more of the small to medium-sized business owner, but we both kind of crisscross back and forth across that line. And what you're doing right now is no different from what you taught me 5 years ago. In other words, it hasn't changed. Even with all of the changes in technology, and the addition of AI and the addition of in the improvement of email automation systems. It's kind of freaking me out right now, just so you know. But all right, let's move on. The answer is no. This proven formula of one today, right now, I took the time right after the meeting. A couple days later, a little bit of a retouch, helpful education. 5 days later, I would say more like 5 to 7, 8, something like that. You do the trust builder, and that's an industry name for it. You still haven't gotten a conversion or even a further discussion about it. So now you go to the fourth email bomb. What is that?
Yeah, that's where we bring the decision to the surface, right? And so we send that anywhere from 7 to 10 days later. It sounds like you would probably do like 10 to 13 days later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's all in how comfortable you are. I think many people have different sales cycles as well, right? So yours, when you start talking about Heartland Sports, it's not pressing right now. I mean, we're May 6th when we're recording this, and football season doesn't start for a while. So that's your big time to sell. So you don't necessarily have to push as hard to get people in before, a sectional or something like that, right? So here, let's go into email 4. Subject line, still thinking it over with a question mark. Email says, I wanted to check in one more time in case this is still on your list. So basically, just making sure that they're still thinking about it. If now is not the right time, no problem. But if you're still interested, we would be happy to answer questions, revisit the options, or help you take the next step. Sometimes the hardest part is just getting back to the conversation. Right? So basically, you've thrown it out there. It's just saying, is this still a priority for you? And many times people will write you back and say, you know what, we found somebody else, whatever it may be. Or we're going to put it off, or we just haven't, we've been busy, we need to make a decision on this. You'll get kind of all of these answers coming back, but that's a subtle way to put in there. Are you going to make a decision, or are you just going to let this lapse? And that's where we're at with that fourth email.
So that begs the question. You know they're interested. Maybe they're in the market. You're using me. I sit down and I watch a Cubs game, and oh my gosh, they bought something off of Marquee. So I know they're in the market. It seems like, oh wow, they went with a competitor, but it's not. It's always a good sign that they're out spending money for whatever they're trying to promote, right?
Right.
So you've got nothing through all 4 of them. Do you forget, or do they go into a pot of just general emails of highlights of games? And, what would you do with that after all of this?
Sure. I mean, if you've got their phone number, maybe follow up one last time. Just wanted to follow up one last time. I don't want to bother you. You can send the same with the email if you really want. These are what we call kind of welcome back emails that you would send, right? So don't want to bother you, want to be, want to understand that time is valuable to you, don't want to take up your inbox. Just wanted to send one last email. Give us a nod if this is still something you're interested in. If it isn't, we're going to take you off the list. We understand there are other options out there. Hopefully you're satisfied with what you got. If you do ever want to come back and continue this conversation, more than happy to sit down and have that conversation. So you could throw out a fifth one, kind of like a welcome back type thing, trying to get them back. Maybe, a lot of people will throw in discounts or whatever to try and like hook them on that last one, but it's up to you. I'm more comfortable just making one final phone call and saying, hey, I don't want to ignore you. I know you're busy. Just want to make sure that this isn't something that you want to move forward on. If it is, we're here. Let's do this. Let's ask the questions. But at some point, you've got to realize that you're starting to be pushy, right? So I've actually got a couple messages out there right now for another thing that I'm working on, and I sent a message this morning, and I said, hey, don't mind the persistence. Saw you were working on this, thought you might be interested in dropping that in as well. Really would be a great opportunity, right? So at some point you start to get too pushy, and maybe 4 emails to some that are listening is already too pushy, but honestly, I'd rather sell something than worry about being too pushy, right? So from your standpoint, I mean, you're selling advertising dollars of thousands of dollars. You know, if you're a HVAC company, maybe you're selling a $10,000 furnace. You know, if it's something smaller like a florist or something, I mean, at that point you're talking $50. So again, it all depends on how comfortable you are, what the average order value is, and all that other fun stuff. But how persistent you want to be. Sales is about persistency. It's about getting out there and making sure that people know about you. People know that they can trust you. People can ask questions. But if you don't try, you'll never know. That's what it comes down to.
All right. So just to kind of sum this up, that's very, very timely. And, you know, I'll just be straight. Doing this podcast with Matt has completely changed my business. I hate to even admit this, we're much more systems oriented, and that's on our operations. Now we're kind of moving in more into the marketing. But what I think that the small and medium-sized business person or the marketing person in those organizations, there's got to be an attitude toward email, taking them in and sending them out. Now, I know the answer to this, like a lawyer on Law and Order, because I took the classes. But, you know, just give an idea of the the percentage, you know, the ROI on email, and what the owner's attitude should be toward it.
I think if you don't do email in some capacity, you are leaving thousands of dollars on the table, right? So going back to when we had our e-commerce brand, slow day, ads are producing, but they're not producing as much as we'd like. Send out a simple email. And we did, you know, a regular cadence on a variety of things. But if you wanted to send a sales email, we'd pick up another $5,000 in orders just by sending one email. And I paid maybe $40 a hosting every single month to host those emails. So, you know, if I'm bringing $500 or $5,000 or whatever it may be, I mean, that's paying just for the email system right there. I heard a guy, I think it was yesterday, we were talking about his email list, and he goes, "Oh, I've only got 10,000 emails." And I just started laughing. I go, most people don't even have 10. Let's be honest. So, you know, to really understand that there's value in email, it's still like the number one way to drive revenue. It goes into their inbox. They may not open every single one of them, and that's a whole nother story that we can talk about, welcome backs and all that. But I've known people that have launched businesses, and the only marketing they do was email. Literally, they would generate a list and they would email. And every week they send out an email, and every week revenue came in, and they spent $0 on paid search, on paid social. It was nothing but email. But they had a way to drive traffic, a lead generation, to drive the emails, and then those emails was how they were selling. And they did really well for a long time.
He's Matt Hansen, digital marketing professor from way back, but this wasn't my segment, so why am I trying to close it down? I'm going to just sit here and you're
right. That sounds good. So yeah, every once in a while, Jim likes to surprise me with topics every once in a while, and so I thought I would do it to him today. But hopefully you learned some things. But I will put the 4 emails that we talked about today, I'll put them in the show notes. I'll go back in after this and put them in the show notes so you have access to them. But just realize, you know, follow-up is key. Say, if somebody has come into your store or made a phone call to you or talked to you about your business, they are interested. They want to give you money. They just need convincing. And that's what, you know, this 4 email drip campaign can actually do for you. So until next time, make sure you go out and follow us on Apple and Spotify. Leave us a review, 5 stars, and we will see you next time.